eyesight, and inshallah you can see the screen. Once again, welcome to our seniors program, 55 plus, I call it seniors. But nonetheless, this is after the first inauguration, this is the first program. I would like to take this opportunity and acknowledge all the hard work for volunteers, and especially Sister Naid Hamadani, who couldn't be here for this inaugural program. We wish her all the best, and of course she's there taking care of her parents in Toronto. With that said, I will start off with a short discussion. I know you already heard me upstairs, so you don't want to hear me again. But inshallah, shortly brief before we can get relaxed, and then inshallah Shabir Bhai will take over with the fun part, that is yoga and exercise, inshallah. And then of course the highlights of all the programs you saw in the flyer that was sent out. So we'll keep you busy inshallah up until the last Maghrib. I unfortunately have to leave at 2:15. There's another program that is happening that I have to be at. So inshallah I will take your excuse around that time, and hopefully I can make it back for Maghrib and prayers. So what I had, this was a PowerPoint presentation जो मैंने बहुत पहले दी थी, it's a long time ago that I gave this presentation. I just refined it a little bit for today's program. So foundations of Islamic ethics, akhlaqiyat. We hear a great deal about akhlaq, which means the proper word is akhlaq, not ikhlaq. Ikhlaq is the name of the individual. Akhlaq is the khuluq and the ethics and your morality. So, ethics is usually the translation of that word, or morality. This has to do with spirituality and a concept called irfan, mysticism. I'm sure you're all aware of it. There are two types of irfan. One is irfan amali, which is the practical irfan, and second is irfan nadari, which is in theory. But we won't be touching that part yet. So we divided this into 5 discussions: ethics in Islam, foundation of akhlaq Islami, and levels of creation, spirituality, and irfan Islami, which we will not get to today, and irfan of Imam Hussain, and different types of qurafa and the mystics that we have. As I said, inshallah, I'll only be able to cover the first 2 to keep the discussion very light, and you can interject at any point. Agar kisi ko kuch puchna hai, kuch comment karna hai, I want to keep it very interactive. I don't want to just have it, monotone, just going and speaking to you as we do in namaz or Jummah khutbah, for example. There's nothing wrong in interjecting and stopping me at any point. You're not going to be disturbing me. You're not going to be distracting me. It's not against the ethics of speech. यहाँ पे अभी कोई मजलिस नहीं पढ़ी जा रही, कोई खुतबा नहीं दिया जा रहा, so you can easily stop me at any time you want to. That's what we want to have interaction. We want to hear from you as well, and of course from your vast experience. Ethics in Islam, the definition, as I said, you're sitting far away, so I'm going to read it all for you, unless you have very good eyesight. Akhlaq is a plural of khuluq. Khay lam qaf, khuluq. And that's why the plural of khuluq is akhlaq. Which means set of human behavior and characteristics. I like the translation behavior more than characteristics or anything else. For example, generosity is a khuluq. And opposite of that is miserliness, which is also a khuluq. So we understand what generosity is. Insan jab sakhawat mandi dikhata. So when you're sakhi, and opposite of sakhi, one is bakhil. Both are akhlaq. One is good akhlaq, the other is a bad akhlaq. How to determine which characteristic is considered ethical and which is not? We must combine it with another thing called values. Therefore, if anything can be looked at from an aspect of having some value, again, if it can be productive and provide some value, then that thing will be ethical. Otherwise, it will be unethical. Now, with that segues into ethics in Islam. Is there a different ethics, morality, code of ethics, and then there's a separate code of ethics under Islam? No, they're pretty much intertwined, but Islam refined it even further. So in Islam emphasizes ethics extensively. 1/3 of Quran, just imagine that, 6,000 plus ayat, 2,000 some ayat are about akhlaqiyat.
Oh, mashallah.
2,000 plus. So if there's 6,666 or 6,223 different calculations, these 2,000 plus are about akhlaqiyat,
Yeah.
which are, morality, behavior, character. Because what was the vainglory and turra imtiyaz of Quran? Quran, when it makes claims like, wala ratbin wala yabisin illa fi kitabin mubin. There's not a wet or dry that is not in Quran. Or ma farratna, we did not leave anything out of Quran. So when you hear these claims in Quran, right away, a progressive mind will say, well, the Quran says there's everything in it. What about, engineering? What about mathematics, right? What about scientific rules? That's not in Quran. So why is Quran saying, وَلَا رَطْبٍ وَلَا يَابِسٍ إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ مُبِينٍ? There's not a wet or dry that is not in Quran. Why is it saying we did not leave anything out of this book? Of course, Quran is not a book of tafsil anyway. So when Allah says that everything is in Quran, it's in Quran. But it's not about engineering technology. Quran came to, make humans human and to teach them humanity. So in reference to human creation, in reference to human nature, and in reference to their akhlaqiyat, there's everything in it. That's when the claim says, Ma farratna fihi min shay. We did not leave anything out of it. That's the claim when it says there's not a wet and dry that's not been mentioned in Quran. As far as humanity is concerned, as far as akhlaqiyat is concerned. Yeah, you won't find, the formulas of mathematics and science and whatnot, the periodical, the rules and all those things from physics and chemistry. You won't find those here. That's not the book is talking about. It's talking about the human nature and the humanity of an individual. So, Islam emphasizes a great deal. 1/3, as I said, of Quran is talking about akhlaq. Pay a little attention, we can see that ethics behind the ahkam as well. So those things that became wajib or wajibat, like our prayers, like our fast, like our hajj, khums, zakat, all of those wajibat, and even muharramat, they too have an akhlaqi element in it, right? What does salat do? Inna salat tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. Salat keeps you away from evil and indecency. So evil and indecency are what? Bad characters, right? So when salat is keeping you away from that, that means there's akhlaqi element found in your prayer. When it comes to fast, Jannatun minan nar. The riwayah says fasting is a shield from Jahannam, keeps you away from Jahannam. Or fasting gives you ability to restrain and to control your anger, right? Control many things. So therefore this akhlaqi element is found even in our ibadat. That's how much intertwined it is. Like, 5-time prayers, month of Ramadan, fasting, performance of Hajj, khums, and zakat. Now the foundation of akhlaqi Islami, there are 3 basic elements of the foundation. As I said, number 1 is ibadat. So Islam wants its followers to establish an everlasting connection with the Lord through this worship, so that everything under its shadows develops a divine flavor. So whatever you do, you're sitting here, this could be an ibadat. In a while, you'll be doing exercise, that can be an ibadat. When you sit with your family to have lunch or dinner, that could be an ibadat. When you take your family out for an outing, that could be an ibadat. Anything and everything that has a divine color in it, it's ibadat. Don't limit ibadat to masjid. Don't limit ibadat to namaz, roza, hajj, zakat, khums. Worship and ibadat is beyond these ibadat that are mentioned in usul-e-din and furu-e-din rather. So that's what the first foundation is. And we gave example of salat, and we gave example of fasting, we gave example hajj, for example, right? It teaches you many lessons. You go to hajj, you transform. You come back as a new person. It teaches you nazm and zabt. It teaches you, punctuality. If you don't leave this place by then, your hajj is batil. If you don't enter in Mina by this time, or you don't enter in Muzdalifah by this time, if you don't leave Arafat, all these things are, you have to be very punctual. You gotta be careful. So if you do certain things while wearing ihram, your ihram is in jeopardy. If your ihram is in jeopardy, then your hajj is in jeopardy. So, and then patience that it comes, forbearance that it brings. All the other ethical values that hajj has with it. Number 2, taqwa. Many of these ibadat actually bring taqwa into you, piety into you. So when the ayat was recited, inna salat tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. Salat keeps you away from evil and indecency. What is it bringing into you? It's bringing taqwa into you. When it comes to fasting, the ayat itself says what? You hear this in Ramadan all the time. كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Fasting is prescribed so that you may become what? Muttaqi. So taqwa is in this fasting. Hajj. Just one element of Hajj. Hajj has 13 things in it. Right? Those of you who have done Hajj, there are 13 things in it. One of the things in Hajj is qurbani. You have to sacrifice an animal. By the way, those who go to Hajj is wajib. Those who don't go to Hajj, it's mustahab. But nonetheless, we give qurbani. The ayat of Surah Hajj says, لَن يَنَالَ اللَّهَ لُحُومُهَا وَلَا دِمَاؤُهَا وَلَكِنْ يَنَالُهُ التَّقْوَى مِنْكُمْ. When you sacrifice an animal, blood doesn't reach Allah. The flesh doesn't reach Allah. What reaches Allah? Taqwa minkum. Your piety. Your khulus. That's what reaches Allah. So that's the second foundation of akhlaq Islam. Third is adalat, justice. Placing things where they belong. You know, wazru shay fi mahallihi. Amir al-Mu'mineen mentioned this. Definition is associated to him. Wazru shay fi mahallihi. Placing things where it belongs. And our Ustad used to give this example that he was wearing hamama. He said, imagine if I take this hamama off and I put it on my foot. That's not adalat. That's ghayr adalat. Why? Because I'm placing something which belongs on my head onto my foot. Or if I take off my shoes and put it on my head. Vice versa, right? So that's what adalat, in a general sense, understanding. That's the basic level of adalat. Of course, adalat and justice, we talked about it in the khutbah as well. God is just. Message of prophets was also based on justice and equality. This entire nizam that we live in, وَالشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ, you know, yeah, they're both following and they're going in routine. They're all going in their own orbit. There's this nazm, based on justice which has been established. Nothing takes over the other. They're all going in the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala designed it to be. Alright, therefore we can see that akhlaq is fundamental in the establishment of a society. It shows us how to treat the creator and the creation, as well as our relationship with the two. So I'll just quote some ayat in this regard. Taqwa, I recited this ayat upstairs as well. وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَهْلَ الْقُرَىٰ آمَنُوا وَاتَّقَوْا لَفَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ بَرَكَاتٍ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Had the people of the town believed and maintained piety, we would have certainly showered on them blessings. So what happens? What is one of the results of your piety at home? When you show piety at home, when you're pious at home, when you're displaying taqwa at home, meaning you're keeping justice and adalat at home with your children, with your grandchildren, with your son-in-laws, with your daughter-in-laws, you're keeping balance with them, when you're keeping adalat with them, and you're keeping taqwa in front of you, what will happen? Barakat will descend upon you. But if you do not maintain justice and taqwa and adalat inside your house, you know, as human tendency sometimes goes that way, then what will happen? You'll see that barakat cease to exist. A lot of people complain. Molana barakat nahi hai. Barakat khatam ho gayi hai. And then there must be something you're doing. Because we talked about it upstairs as well in the khutbah today. That there is a direct connection to our actions in what happens in the world and what happens to people around us. Takwini and Tashriri, two things was mentioned. I don't want to repeat the same things again that I said upstairs. When we show fraud in our finances, we're hurting someone. When we slander someone who's not here, we're hurting them. We're corrupting the society. We're causing fasad. And similarly, when we do that, we're asking Allah to send Allah onto us as well. So both are related. Malice, Quran talks about that as well. Who speaks better than one who invites human beings to God, acts righteously and says, I am Muslim. Virtue and evil are not equal. Meherbani, being merciful. فَبِنَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. This is about Prophet. This instruction, of course, is for all of us, but it is for Prophet initially. O Prophet, if you are stern-hearted, these people that are around you, they would have left you a long time ago. So even Rasulullah had to show extreme amount of sabr, patience, and meherbani, and rahim. And then turning away from Allah. وَمَنْ عَارَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِهِ فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا. There are some ahadith in this regard as well. I'll just go through these ahadith quickly. I have a couple of minutes. As I said, you can interject, you can stop me at any time, but inshallah I'll stop and have some conversation as well. لَيْسَ مِنَّا مَنْ غَشَّ مُسْلِمًا أَوْ ضَرَّهُ مَا كَرَهَ. He's not amongst us who deceives or harms another Muslim, another man, another human being. لَيْسَ مِنَّا مَنْ يَحْقُرُ الْأَمَانَ. He's not among us who dishonors that which he had been entrusted with.
Molana, I have a question.
Ji.
You just mentioned harm to another. Does that mean Muslims only, Mu'min only?
So initially it is you take care of your own and then you broaden the circle, right? So when it comes to me, my first obligation is my family, right? I need to provide for my family. My obligation is not to provide for your family, nor is yours to provide for mine, right? So we all have our own families that we need to first provide. That's our wajib. So we need to take care of them first before I can go ahead and extend a hand to my neighbors, to someone else. So yes, when these riwayat are mentioned that not harming another person, true, regardless of the faith, you should not be harming anyone, especially those who are your close ones, those who are mu'mineen, those who are Muslim. Right? So everyone, of course, all human beings. The riwayat that were mentioned back then were speaking about the society that only had Muslims. Right? So if you grew up in Pakistan or India or Africa, South Africa, East Africa, or Muslim countries, predominantly Muslim countries, बहुत सारी halal haram की चीजें तो वहाँ पे discuss भी नहीं होती थी, right? You don't have to worry about halal and haram. You can just go buy anything from anywhere. All that discussion is for the society that we live in here. So those things weren't mentioned as much. So maybe people living in that part of the world, they're not even well versed in the ahkam related to halal and haram. क्योंकि मुब्तला भी नहीं है, they don't have to worry about it. But you and I, when we migrated to this country, now we had to learn about halal and haram. Right? So similarly, when these riwayat were mentioned, they were mentioned in a group. They were all Muslims. So of course, when you're not going to be interacting with non-Muslims, riwayat is going to say what? Whoever deceives another Muslim is not from amongst us. But if the riwayat said whoever deceives another non-Muslim, so well, we never come across any non-Muslims, so what does riwayat do? That's what the context was. But of course, you should not harm anyone. Alright. Amanat. Taking care of the amanat. ليس منا من لم يوقظ كبيرنا ويرحم صغيرنا ويعرف لنا حقنا. He's not amongst us who neither respects the elders nor is merciful towards the youngsters, and he doesn't recognize our rights. So how you behave with those who are older than you, those who are younger than you, and those who are same age as you. Alright, I'll stop over here as then this discussion goes into another portion which I will keep for inshallah our next